Hey everybody, welcome to the Dissection, where we totally cause your favorite movies so much trauma, they S-word themselves. Today we're looking at Smile from director Parker Flynn. This is the theatrical adaptation of his 2020 short, Laura Hasn't Slept. Soon we're gonna find out why Laura hasn't been sleeping. Let's dive in. We open on a dead face. Holy shit, that's a pretty hard opening. The camera pulls back and we can see that this woman died from boozing, cigarettes, and pills. And is that Mexican pizza? I think we can all relate to fourth meal cravings, am I right?
Yo quiero Taco Bell.
Camera pans back and we see not only is this poor woman a mother, but one of her children from her photographs is actually staring at her, in apparent shock from having found the dead body. It's probably gonna come up later. Cut to what we assume is present day, and we meet our main protagonist, Rose, played by Sosie Bacon, the daughter of actors Kevin Bacon and Kira Sedgwick. And I'm not gonna lie, I spent a good deal of this movie trying to figure out where I knew her from, only to realize by the end she reminded me of Kevin Bacon. And in all respect, Kevin Bacon has been in some great horror movies that I hope to cover here on the channel one day, like Friday the 13th, Stir of Echoes, or Mystic River, which is not a horror movie, but fucking A if I don't get all teary-eyed every time I watch it. Anyways, we see Rose at her desk. Turns out she's a psychiatrist that helps crazy people get their shit together. She gets a phone call to help one of those said crazies, Carl, who is a serious nihilist.
Nobody matters. She doesn't matter. He doesn't matter. She doesn't matter. Mom doesn't matter. Nothing ever matters. I don't matter.
Rose reassures Carl that he's not going to die, even though he is, and we move outside to an overhead shot of a woman who is having a manic episode and being brought in on a stretcher. From there, we pan into Rose's boss's office, played by Kal Penn, you know, from the Harold and Kumar movies. And being real here, I love this camera work and editing. These transitions are just beautiful and fun to watch, and it's not done in a way that's overly artsy or avant-garde, and like no one in the production team is over here sniffing their own farts or anything. These moves just help push the story forward while not feeling just like boring cuts and transitions. Kumar scolds Rose for abusing the patient care program, which he says is causing the board of directors to come down on him. Rose fights back, and we can all tell right away that caring for crazies is something she's pretty crazy about herself. And if you haven't put it together at this point, that little girl that found her dead mom, yeah, that was Rose. It's not specifically mentioned, but we can infer that the trauma from finding her dead mother has caused her to pursue a line of work where she has to exorcise her own demons. Hopefully. Dr. Whitecastle tells Rose that he's concerned and that she should take the night off, which she prepares for, until the damn phone rings.
Dr. Cotter.
Turns out that the crazy freakout girl, whose name is Laura and who is played by Caitlin Stasey, her face also graces the cover of the movie, has been brought in because she's having an episode after watching her professor bludgeon himself to death with a hammer. Cue Cannibal Corpse. Rose tries her same reassurance drill with Laura, but that shit doesn't work at all because Laura knows better. She tells Rose that she can see something following her that appears as other people she may or may not know. It follows her? It follows?
Get my joke?
In seriousness, this movie does borrow from a lot of other movies and general horror tropes, and while that can be distracting at times, I found that on my second watch through, it didn't really bother me as much. We'll reference this again later in the video. Laura tries to calm down and explain what she's seeing to Rose. We also find out that Laura saw her grandfather die in front of her when she was 7, an interesting coincidence to Rose's childhood trauma. Rose asks Laura,
Do you see it right now here?
Come on, Rose, don't you know you're in a horror movie? Engaging the demon is the last thing you want to do. But also I want to watch the movie, so carry on. Laura ties this whole thing together by telling Rose that when she sees it, it's smiling at her. And they go deeper into the conversation when they find out Laura knows today is the day she is going to die. And that premonition comes quick as Laura crawls across the floor on her back screaming. And the creepiest thing on subsequent watch-throughs is we actually know what is happening to Laura right here in this moment. Rose goes to call for help and turns her back on Laura. Seriously, Rose, I feel like you've never seen a horror movie before. And when she turns back around to see Laura, she finds her standing there smiling at her menacingly.
He's just standing there, menacingly!
And holding a shard from the vase she just broke in her hand. I hope that she doesn't... Oh God! She smiles all the way to the floor. As we see the shock on Rose's face, having been traumatized from just witnessing a self-harm word that I can't say on YouTube because rules, we zoom into Rose's eye to see the most seizure-inducing title card I have ever seen. Seriously, I'm gonna have to put a disclaimer in this video for showing this. Later, we see Rose being interrogated by police officers, and the same irritation comes up as one of the officers refers to Laura as a head case.
I'm sorry, a head case?
You can tell that Rose takes mental health pretty personally, almost like she walked in on her mom, you know. Rose heads home, and after finding blood on her shirt, tries to scrub the mentally impaired, off of her, and cracks open a bottle of wine to relax and decompress after the day's stress, because nothing quite goes hand in hand with trauma like a good glass of Chardonnay. Only Turns out wine won't help you escape the smile monster, and it definitely doesn't help your coordination.
Rose. Whoa.
Her boyfriend, Trevor, played by Jesse T. Usher, comes home and Rose discloses that a patient died, but doesn't tell him how bad it was. Almost like she's trying to gloss over it to hide it from him. Not that he seems interested anyway, as if he wants to pat her on the back and tell her, "You'll get it next time, champ." Thanks, Dad. The couple discusses canceling their dinner plans, which they are clearly not looking forward to, and in this next scene, we can see why. Meet Rose's sister Holly and her sister's husband Greg. Holly rambles about how her kids are so annoying and it's so annoying to take care of a child, and while I can sympathize with that, I can also sympathize with being super irritated about someone rambling about how hard it is to take care of their kid. Like, this is what you signed up for. Did you not realize that when you were pushing a living person out of your body? Holly and Greg, who are total pretentious vapid assholes by the way, shame Laura for not taking a higher paying job and then criticize her for not selling the family home. You know, the one she found her dead mom in earlier in the movie. And while Holly complains about raising her own child, who, by the way, has a birthday party this weekend, Laura snaps at them. And while not explaining to anyone in her immediate vicinity, "Hey, I watched some cuckoo bananas lady give herself a chin tuck earlier while she was smiling at me," I feel like that might explain some of her behavior, but she clearly doesn't want to let people think she's vulnerable, so she just settles with coming off like a hypersensitive jerk. The couple returns home being greeted by their cat Mustache, might be the best cat name ever, top 5 at least, and proceeds with their nighttime routine. Again, still not discussing the crazy shit that just went down earlier. The next day, Rose goes into work and starts asking the always spunky nurse Wanda questions about the girl who just Chelsea grinned herself. She's surprised by the officer from the other day. His name is Joel, who turns out to be an old flame. Rawr. Rose is irritated by the interaction and abruptly leaves like she just farted and has to walk out of the room before the cloud hits everyone's nostrils. Nurse Wanda thinks he's fire though.
I'm single.
Rose continues to look into the strange S-word that Laura witnessed right before her own S-word of Professor Munoz. She also highlights everything as she reads it, which is either for dramatic effect or she just really needs glasses. Seriously, don't put off getting those things. It's only going to get harder to read that tiny font. Oh hey look, they highlighted the word that's in this movie. Clever. She has a conversation / makeup with her sister in which she is reminded about her nephew's birthday again, just in time to look out the window and see Laura looking up at her. The outside of the window is pretty reflective though, so she could have just been looking at herself. Rose walks down the hall of the office to see an old familiar face. It's our buddy Carl, who looks like he's been mixing lithium and mouthwash. Laura snaps him out of his stupor, and he very aggressively tells her she's gonna die. Like 100 times. I mean, we get it, Carl. We all die. Rose freaks out and calls for a 5150, which means he's going to be held against his will for 72 hours due to mental illness, even though he's already in a mental hospital. Kind of weird. I feel like they just threw that in there to have a Van Halen reference. As the orderlies approach Carl, turns out he was just snoozing. What the fuck, Rose? Poor dude is just trying to take a nap when he gets hogtied by 6 guys. The situation has called her judgment into question with her boss, Dr. Whitecastle, and he tells her to kick rocks for a week and check herself before she wreck herself. Actually, he's very professional about it. I'm just trying to make this drab, boring scene more entertaining by imagining him in a boating hat with a gold chain around his neck like he's a Beastie Boy. Rose decides to clear her head by buying a toy train for her nephew.
If you need an idea, he's really into electric model trains.
And the nice man at the counter wraps it up for her in a neat box with tissue paper. Remember that you saw him put the train in there. This slow pan in through the window wasn't just left in because it's a cool shot. Rose needs more wine, which I'm fairly sure is not going to help her wrap presents, or avoid seeing dead college PhD students for that matter. She kind of sucks at rapping also. Luckily she has a nice boyfriend who wishes her well through text, even though he can't come back to the house because he's working late or whatever. Kind of like when you have plans that you don't really want to follow through on, so you just send the old, "Oh sorry, I wish I could be there, but I've been exposed to COVID." Also, she's really slamming the wine down at this point. The alarm goes off and she breaks another wine glass because Rose is more clumsy than Jay Leno with a can of gasoline.
Oh my god, we're burning alive!
Butterfingers checks the front door to make sure it's locked and immediately notices the back door is open. She receives a call from the alarm company to make sure that she's okay. Now that's customer service. Oh wait, no, that's not customer service.
Are you sure you haven't let something inside, Rose? Look behind you.
Hey, there's nothing there, you creepy bitch. Rose looks down and realizes there's not even a phone in her hand. Like she had the whole conversation in her head. Kind of like when I remembered sending Ethan Salem's Lot footage, but it never actually happened.
It's true.
Rose, understandably confused, panics when she answers the phone for a second time.
Hello?
Do you like scary movies?
The boys in blue search the house and reassure Rose that she's safe and totally insane right as Trevor pulls in looking confused as fuck. Rose tries to feed Mustache, but the cat must not be hungry because he's nowhere to be found. My cat does this from time to time. She's usually trying to hitch a ride in our mail lady's truck. Our other cat did too, but turns out he was viciously murdered by coyotes. That's a real thing that happened, and this is the way I'm coping with it. I legit have a pet cemetery in my backyard. Good thing Trevor is around to comfort her. Here, he is showing the most support he's shown up to this point in the movie.
Rose, did you break another glass?
What a sensitive guy. Rose is awoken by a nightmare of her mother, which prompts her to do some late night Napster downloading. Does anyone even get that joke anymore? Maybe I should swap it out for LimeWire? Somehow Rose has an audio recording of Laura doing the deed. You know, defacing herself, not sex. And she hears a strange sound in the audio. Deciding to take the role of paranormal research heroes like Zach Baggins, she listens closely to hear what it's saying. You can just barely hear it. I think I just Baggins to my pants. Trevor walks in to see what's up with all the noise, only to find out that Rose has traded her Beats by Dre for Bobby Flay. That's a chef joke, because she's got a knife. My genius is wasted here. Rose does the first smart thing she's done in this whole movie and visits her psychiatrist, Dr. Madeline Northcutt, played by Robin White, who you might recognize as Allie from Sons of Anarchy. Rose tries to get her doctor to write her a script for fentanyl. I'm kidding. She actually wants a prescription for Resperol, which is used to treat schizophrenia, dementia, and bipolar disorder. The movie doesn't explain that, but you know, I just did.
Rose, from where I'm sitting, you don't seem delusional or disordered to me.
Nah, you could just hallucinate for a while. I mean, there's two ways to take this. One, just like Laura, when Rose is trying to convince people that there's something going on, they ignore her. And or two, that what Rose is explaining doesn't seem like it's coming from a crazy person to a licensed psychiatrist. Either way, Rose ain't getting those meds. Rose puts on her face to get ready to go to her nephew's birthday party. You know, kids' birthday parties, where the parents get together and gossip about other parents while their kids binge on sugar and turn into little demons for 5 hours before everyone has to wrangle their screaming child and get them the fuck out of there. Yeah, it's basically what it's like.
I decided to take that.
That present looks heavy. Rose gets shoehorned into a group of chatty Cathys just in time for...
You're the therapist, right?
I love it when that happens. We call those people assholes. Everyone sings happy birthday, which is usually an indication that it's getting close to quitting time, if you know what I mean. And we see the young Jackson, played by Matthew Lamb, opening presents, one of which is the yellow package from his good old Aunt Rose. This little shit thinks he's getting a train set, but surprise, motherfucker!
What'd you get, sweetheart?
A dead fucking cat, that's what. Aw, that Aunt Rose always buys the most thoughtful gifts. Everyone is freaked the fuck out by Rose, who doesn't really even know what's happening herself, but that's why you never drink and rap. You might accidentally label a gift for the wrong person, and that's always awkward. Hey, look out! And this is a great example of why you don't have glass furniture when you have kids running around, or psychotic sisters that re-gift people dead cats. Could someone get her a Band-Aid? Maybe some antiseptic? The thought of how disgusting that table must be with all those disease-carrying gremlins running around. Good thing she works in a hospital because she's probably gonna need a tetanus shot. How are you feeling today? There's no number for Sad Panda. Rose's boss checks in on her bloody ass, and even though she literally crashed her sister's son's birthday party, Holly still accompanies her sister to the hospital, mostly just to chew out Trevor. And still, no mention of what happened to Rose the other day. Rose tries to open up and tell Trevor what she's been experiencing, and he obviously doesn't want to hear it. You get the feeling Trevor just wants to not deal with this situation. He's what you would call non-confrontational, or for being frank, a coward. You see, Trevor doesn't really want a real human connection with all of its complexity and nuances. He wants a very vanilla existence that is predictable and stable. Trevor might be the most relatable character in this whole movie just because of how generic his role is. And no matter how much Rose wants to explain herself and wants Trevor's support, he's just not interested in hearing it.
I can't. I cannot fucking do this right now.
This is actually kind of heartbreaking to watch because here you have this careered woman who has spent so much of her life looking after others, and when she finally needs someone to look after her, she finds out that all of the people in her life have basically just written her off. And there's a good moral to this story. If you surround yourself with shallow, superficial relationships, those relationships will crumble under the stress of real life. Eventually. Get yourself a ride or die, like Nurse Wanda.
I'm single.
We also find out who Trevor really is in this scene.
Mental illness. You can inherit it from a parent. I looked it up.
Why would you look that up?
Because I wanted to know what I was potentially hitching my entire life to.
They could have swapped out the word genetic for hereditary, but they chose a less meaningful generic word. Wonder why? Yeah, that Trevor. What a keeper, man. I bet he has creepy printouts of your MySpace page that he looked up with the Wayback Machine in a locked drawer of his office. That is a very odd and specific joke.
You okay?
Rose's life is unraveling fast before her eyes. While Trevor sleeps on the couch, she goes back to being an internet sleuth, and what the fuck, they actually have a Google page in this movie? I'll be honest here, one of my major pet peeves in movies is when they use the internet to do a search, and they use some weird fantasy search engine that pulls up the very specific result they were looking for in a news article with no spammy pop-up ads. I know this is a work of fiction, but you can only stretch your imagination so far, you know? She searches for Dr. Gabriel Munoz, the dude who put the claw hammer to his own face, and she must be getting somewhere because every time she does something like this, Smiley appears. Yeah, probably a good idea to just turn off your lights and go to bed. Wait a second, how the fuck did she get in the street almost getting hit by a car? Is she Neo? Is this the Matrix? Rose pays the widow Munoz a visit under the guise of being a reporter investigating her husband's worksite accident. You know, the one where he S-worded his own face with a claw hammer? We've talked about that. She finds out a lot of exposition from Mrs. Munoz, like that Gabriel had been seeing the same things as Rose prior to his unfortunate hammer malfunction. Hey, that sounds like the name of a Cannibal Corpse song. And we also find out that he had seen another person S-word themselves prior to this ordeal. Confirmation that the thing, they don't really define it. Demon? Entity? Whatever. And even though Clawhammer's widow, played by Judy Reyes' role is brief, she still manages to deliver this banger of a performance.
Get the fuck out of my house!
She must have a lot of Mormons in her neighborhood. Feeling trapped with no one to turn to, she goes to the one person that has actually shown her any sympathy or care this whole movie. The cop she used to bang. Probably would have been a good move in the first place since he has access to the police database with a little bit more information than Google. And less pop-up ads. It even includes this creepy gas station CCTV footage of a guy scissoring himself. And I know that sounds like a kink, but it's more like this. The former lovers discover that there's a long string of these S-words happening in front of people, and those people end up absorbing the trauma and being stalked by the same smile monster that is stalking Rose. Rose gets ambushed by her therapist and her boyfriend.
Why don't you just fucking make yourself at home?
That went well. This guy's the most spineless douche in the whole movie. 100% I could beat him in arm wrestling. Holly tells Greg to buzz off so she can chat at her sister, and it doesn't go so well. At this point, Rose knows too much, and these people that already thought she was nuts now think she's super nuts.
Oh my god, Rose, where the fuck do you have that?
Rose also starts unpacking her resentment towards her sister for abandoning Rose when she was younger with their mother who was mentally unstable, which ultimately led to Rose finding her mother dead from the apparent S-word. Holly dips and tells Rose to kick rocks. Rose realizes that she just blew this opportunity to have a heart-to-heart with her sister, but oh wait, looks like Holly has had a change of heart. Or maybe Rose just forgot her keys, or oh, she just wants to give her a kiss goodbye. Wonder what's going through this kid's head. Fact, running from an invisible smile demon entity thing makes you hungry, especially for carbs and fat. Joel calls to let Rose know how far the S-word rabbit hole goes, but hey, on the bright side, one guy survived. They decide to go track down the lone survivor to see if he can help them figure out what this thing is. The problem? He's in jail. So it turns out that if you turn the S-word into an M-word, you can survive. But then you gotta M-word someone and go to prison. Rose lets Joel in on the fact that she watched someone S-word themselves when they are in a moving car together, so that way he can't freak out and bail, but he's really the only person not trying to gaslight Rose anyway. He's actually on board with the whole theory, and all it took was some grainy CCTV footage. Joel also found, while he was digging through confidential police files for technically non-police related business, I'm sure they frown on that none of the S-worders lived for more than a week before they S-worded themselves. Most didn't even make it past 4 days, but that's okay because
Today was my 4th day.
oh shit, I guess it's not okay. Joel, you should get the fuck out of there before she tries to S-word herself in front of you. They make it to the prison where the only survivor, Robert Talley, aka Robert Morgan in real life, is serving his sentence for the M-word that saved his life. Rose tries to be sneaky about getting information out of him by lying and saying she has a patient that's going through what he went through, but that is super distressing to Robbie Schmurder McGurder. Bobby Knuckles affirms that the M-word is what saved his life, but the curse, or whatever it is, gets passed through experiencing trauma. And if that's the case, they should just make Rose watch Mother. Rose blows her cover by screaming,
I can't kill someone!
And now that the beans are spilled and Rob Dog knows that the Smile Ghost is around, he freaks the fuck out. He obviously doesn't want that thing back after going through all that. Rose tells Joel that Rob is out of his fucking mind. This is ironic. Rose goes back home to figure out how to beat this thing when she gets a surprise visit from her psychiatrist, right as she's grabbing a knife too. Don't you hate it when that happens? Dr. Northcott threatens to call the authorities if Rose doesn't convince her that she's not going to S-word herself. Oh, if you only knew, Dr. Katz. Rose begrudgingly lets her in for an impromptu session, and Dr. Felicia interrogates her, and in the middle of her questioning, the phone rings. I mean, don't you hate it when you're in the middle of something and you get a phone? God damn it. Hello?
Yeah, this is Miguel. I'm calling about your car's extended warranty. It's about to expire.
Sorry, this will take just 1 second. Look, Miguel, I've told you 100 times, I don't have an extended car warranty.
Are you sure? Look behind you.
Rose answers the phone and, hey, it's Dr. Drew Weena. But how could she call if she's here? Oh God! You know, if you actually pause the movie here so you can write the time code down for your editor, this scene is actually not that scary. It just looks like Madeline caught the first whiff of her own milk fart. Rose should know at this point though, she's not really in danger as long as there's no one else to pass the curse on to. Kind of like Fallen. But I guess her doctor can still drool all over her, which is gross, especially if she's been drinking milk. This scene cuts abruptly and Rose is sitting outside in her car with the Forged in Fire limited edition butcher's knife she bought off QVC and marches into the hospital. Never mind how she got away from the drool demon, she's here now. Looks like she's gonna put the stabby to good old Carl. This fool knows whatever is happening is not gonna be good, so he starts blubbering about, and in walks Dr. Whitecastle. Wait, did I already use that one? Shit. And Rose looks both surprised and relieved. I mean, she probably didn't want it to be her boss, but at the same time, how many of you would murder curse your boss if you got the chance? You know? She punctures his lung, and I don't know why, but this bothers me. Like, if you've ever watched The First 48 or something similar, you know that when people try to do this, their hand slides down the knife and they cut themselves. Also, there's a hell of a lot of bone right there. Like, the knife just goes right in. Is he made of butter? I know this is a work of fiction and I'm being way overly critical here, but I just couldn't help it. Besides, at this point, you're already like 5,300 words into the script, so you probably don't have anything better to do than listen to me yammer anyways, right? Okay, back to it. One doesn't do it, so she keeps stabbing the shit out of him. Like, a lot. Why won't this guy die? Oh, wait a second. Yeah, that's a dead giveaway you're dreaming. That and trying to use your cell phone. Rose is in shock about the intensity of her dreams, and at this point it's starting to get hard to tell what's reality and what's hallucination. Dr. Kumar comes out to Rose's car to check on her and, wait a second, I know this one. His head is gonna fall off, right? Except it doesn't. Turns out he just wants to talk to her because she's been acting nutso lately. Dr. Kumar sees the knife and gets more persistent about Rose not being alone, which makes Rose realize that if she's alone, she can't pass it on to anyone else. Genius. Only, what about the gas station guy? He was possessed and just walked up and found a random stranger to S-word in front of. Anyway, she books it out in the country, and can anyone guess where she's going? That's right, the house where she saw her mom die. The one her sister is trying to shame her into selling. It's pretty run down, could probably use a coat of paint, but you know, house isn't what makes a home a home. A homicidal smile phantom is what makes a home a home. Did you expect the lights to work? This place is a dump. Could really use a rug to tie the room together. Rose wanders through her abandoned childhood home. By the way, what's on these walls? Is that mold? I know it's abandoned, but this place looks like it's had a deep fryer running with the windows closed for the last 30 years. Anyways, we're given some more backstory here about Rose and her mom's S-word. Turns out it wasn't an S-word at all. Rose's mom accidentally O-worded. That's overdosed. I don't have to censor that, right, YouTube? She begged Rose to help her, but Rose intentionally left her mother to die. Pretty fucked up. No wonder she's such a head case. Rose goes to the garage to gather some lights since the light switch from before didn't work, and she's just too shaken up from stabbing her boss to death to remember to bring some sort of light. I mean, being alone with a shit smirk demon is one thing, but being alone with one in the dark is a completely different thing, you know?
Yeah, I guess so, yeah.
Luckily, her family happened to have a shelf in the garage just full of light-casting devices. And as I'm writing this joke, I'm realizing that they probably had it because their mom was a pill addict and the power probably went off regularly. So now I'm sad.
We're here.
She sits in the dark with only her kerosene lamp to keep her company, and then hears the door creak open. Upon investigation, she can hear her mother sobbing in the room behind the partially open door. The demon messes with Rose by imitating her mother.
I'm shocked.
And we find out that the reason Rose let her mom die was because she was so afraid of her. For real, if this movie didn't disturb you up to this point, this scene should do it. Especially now that we know what haunts Rose isn't only the trauma of finding her dead mother, but the guilt of not helping her when she cried out for it. And, you know, Rose's mom is a little bent out of shape about the whole thing. Rose backs away, but the demon gets the jump on her. But Rose manages to overpower it and burns that bitch like a church in Norway in the 90s. Yes, I know I overused that joke, but there's nothing that quite gets my point across like it. She drives back into town thinking about how happy she is to be free of the pesky demon and pays a visit to her good friend Billy Joel, who she thanks for being with her through the whole ordeal. I mean, he was really the only person that helped her and didn't just write her off as crazy. She asks if she can squat at his house and if he'll stay with her for a while. What a happy ending.
I'll stay with you forever.
What the fuck? The lights fade out and we realize that Rose didn't burn shit. She's still at the cabin with the demon/entity identity? She imagined burning the house down, but Joel, being the loving, caring guy he is, as well as the best detective on the block, tracked her down and is trying to help her. And as Rose screams and screams, she realizes what is about to happen. And we also get to see what was happening to Laura at the beginning of the movie. Seriously, this depiction of a demon possessing someone is so disturbing that it makes you kind of wonder why there wasn't more of this in the rest of the movie. Joel walks in just in time to see a smitten Rose self-immolate, and we are left with the trauma on Joel's face from watching her burn alive. Cut to black. This movie did so many things right, and the editing and pacing were, in my opinion, top-notch. I also very much enjoyed Sosie Bacon's performance as Rose. She does an incredible job of depicting a woman going from a has-her-shit-together professional to having it all unravel at the hands of a vengeful geist of some kind. They never really explain what it is, and it's actually a good thing in my opinion. The less you know about the demon, the more scary it is. But the one thing that I thought they could have done better was the actual scenes with the demon. I mean, these are just people smiling, and while in a movie like It Follows, that novelty was seen as more a product of being creative on a budget, that's not the way it comes off in this movie at all. I mean, I just think that if they had tweaked the face slightly to make it less human and more of an obvious demon wearing a human skin mask, it would have been more impactful. And this is just all the more true when we get to the end and we see Rose possessed by the entity, because let's face it, Sosie Bacon might be a great actor, but there is nothing menacing or scary about her smile. And I mean that as a compliment. I just think that if they did something like this, it would have been scarier. Oh, hey, me from the future. What you doing here?